Hello and welcome to my presentation. My name is Ross Walker and I am a lead vocational teacher at TAFE Queensland East Coast. This presentation is entitled An Overview of Applied Learning Principles and Their Relevance to Effective Teaching Practice in Vocational Education and Training, a presentation for teachers in vocational education. The ability to learn new things and pass on our knowledge from generation to generation is the foundation on which we have built our modern high-technology society. From early man finding out that fire would harden their spear tips, making them more effective, to the current near-magical miniaturized electronics in our mobile phones that are a standard tool we all own today, our whole lives are based on learning. We try new things, find what works, and pass on the knowledge to others. From early Greek philosophers thinking about thinking, metacognition in today's vernacular, through John Watson and Skinner's study of behaviouralism to more modern cognitive, constructionist and humanist theorists like Page, Dewey and Kolb, andrological and pedagogical learning theories are constantly being developed and improved as our knowledge of this intrinsic ability we all share, called learning, becomes better understood by modern educationalists. The applied learning principles of teaching and learning theory are one of the more recent refinements of this continual cycle of study and improvement. Okay, so what do I mean by applied learning principles? The applied learning principles that I will discuss in this presentation were first codified a decade ago, and the Graduate Diploma of Education of Applied Learning was initiated by Deakin University Geelong in 2005. From this beginning, the successful outcomes applied learning principles have brought to students and teachers have contributed to them being taken up by more and more educational institutions here in Australia and indeed around the world. What I'm going to talk about today are 8 reliable principles designed to guide teachers' lesson planning, the way we interact with our students, strategies we use to increase motivation and engagement in experiential, hands-on learning activities involving real-world tasks and skills. I am very confident many teachers will be able to identify with most of the principles as we progress through the presentation. The first applied learning principle is to start where your learners are at. To do this, we need to get to know our students, and we need to get to know them very well. We need to know their pre-existing knowledge and skills, what their motivations are, what they hope to gain from the learning, their preferences, their concerns, their needs, and their reasons for undertaking the learning. Armed with this knowledge, we can tailor the learning to suit their needs and build on what they already know in the best way that suits them. The second applied learning principle is to negotiate the curriculum, to engage in a dialogue with our learners about their curriculum. When students are involved in negotiating the curriculum, they are beginning to be engaged in the learning. They will feel they have some control over where they are going and how they are going to get there. During the negotiation, we can guide them in what is possible and what is not, depending on what the criteria are for the knowledge and skills that need to be learned. While some elements like performance criteria and the required skills and knowledge are fixed, there are still many options that can be negotiated. Options such as how the learning process and environment is set up, what resources could be used, and even going as far as how the learning process could be assessed, depending on practicality and suitability for the subject. The third applied learning principle is to share knowledge. We must recognise the knowledge our students bring to the learning environment. Every participant in any learning experience brings a rich assortment of knowledge and skills that should be shared with others to extend the depth and breadth of our mutual learning. This principle has links to social learning, which proposes learning is a cognitive process that takes place in a social context and can occur purely through observation or direct instruction. although applied learning principles are more focused on experiential learning, as we will discover when we cover Principle 7. Sharing knowledge and social learning are important elements of the overall theme, all the same. The fourth applied learning principle is to connect with communities and real-life experiences. Every workplace could be a community of practice if managed properly. In these environments, synergy comes into effect and the outcomes are often greater than what could be achieved by individuals working alone. The most appropriate learning activities will use authentic tasks taken from real-world situations, contextualized by the required outcomes and how the task is done in the workplace. By learning genuine skills and knowledge that can be immediately put to use in the real world, we are preparing our students to become valuable members of society and the community of practice in which they are involved. The relationship of these first four principles to constructivism learning theory is easy to recognize. Gene Page, John Dewey, and David Kolb have all recommended strategies that use similar principles to create engagement and deep personal learning. Constructivism views the teacher as a facilitator who encourages students to discover principles for themselves and to construct knowledge by working on answering open-ended questions and solving real-world problems. When designing effective teaching environments, constructivism believes teachers must have a good understanding of what students already know when they come into the classroom. The teacher should also encourage curiosity and discussion among their students to create an engaging social learning environment. The fifth applied learning principle is to build resilience, confidence and self-worth by considering the whole person. This quote by Mesereau sums up the principle rather well. The job of adult educators is to help learners look critically at their beliefs and behaviours, not only as these appear at the moment, but in context of their history, their purpose, and consequences in the learners' lives. Being able to persevere when faced with obstacles in a way of reaching a goal, having a positive attitude, and simply getting on with the job at hand are all habits of successful people and improve the quality of our lives and our outlook on life itself. This principle also reflects Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, which suggests that people have an ascending scale of needs, starting with the most basic physiological needs that must be met before the individual will strongly desire or focus motivation upon other higher level needs, culminating in self-actuation where the person is able to realize their full potential. What do you see when you look in the mirror? The sixth applied learning principle is to integrate learning, the whole task and the whole person. Being competent in any area involves mastering not just the skills and knowledge needed to perform the task, it also includes elements of employability skills such as problem-solving skills, initiative and enterprise, planning and organising, self-management, self-reflection, communication skills, and teamwork. I especially like this quote from Kolb. When learning is conceived as a holistic adaptive process, it provides conceptual bridges across life situations such as school and work, portraying learning as a continuous, lifelong process. In a few simple, eloquent words, he captures the essence of the change learning can bring about within us. Sometimes our whole outlook on life can be turned upside down because of something we experience or learn. The seventh applied learning principle is to promote diversity of learning styles and methods. Everyone learns differently, but value experiential, practical, and hands-on ways of learning. Providing a range of learning resource options for students to use ensures different preferences are taken into consideration. Resources can be paper-based, digital, online, videos, podcasts, practical tasks, portfolios, discovery learning, and experiential learning. You can use group activities, independent study, Numeracy and literacy skills can be embedded in the contextualization of the resources. Nothing works better than doing, assessing, reflecting and adjusting over and over until you get it right. I'm sure everyone here can identify with the second part of this principle. Practical tasks are standard fare for trades-based apprentices who are learning mainly physical skills along with the accompanying contextual knowledge. In most training we deliver the theory, demonstrate the skill, and then they practice while we guide and support them. The learning is in the doing, and the doing reinforces what they think they know. The eighth and final principle is to assess appropriately. Use the assessment method that best fits the learning content and context. Again, this is something we already do with most apprentice training. We use practical tasks in simulated working environments to gauge competency because most of the skills we teach are practical skills. We use examples from the real-world situations that apprentices could and do meet at work. As Albert Einstein once said, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. Applied learning principles can easily be linked to many of the standards of the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers and obligations from the Teachers Code of Professional Practice. Some examples are Standard 1 tells us to know our students and how they learn, links directly to Principle 1, start where the learners are at. Professional Practice Standard 3, plan for and implement effective teaching and learning, can be linked to integrating learning and promote diversity of learning styles and methods. And Standard 7, engage professionally with colleagues, carers, parents and the community, links directly with Principle 4, connect with communities and real-life experiences. Many of the obligations from the Teachers Code of Professional Practice, such as 1.1.1, respect the dignity, rights and opinions of others, 1.1.4, develop and maintain constructive professional relationships with parents and carers, and 3.1.1, accept responsibility for high-quality teaching, are also synonymous with applied learning principles. While we are already using many elements of applied learning principles in our work practices here in TAFE Queensland East Coast, there is always room for improvement. I have listed here some suggestions of how we could incorporate more of these principles into our work practices. We could review and contextualize our assessments during the validation process. As part of my LVT responsibilities, I will be creating lesson plans following applied learning principles for special interest groups such as the Bundaberg Talent Program and the pre-vocational class running in 2017. We could also extend our delivery options by putting as many units as possible from the master resource online and available to our apprentices across the region to study at their convenience. Moving forward from here, I would like to challenge you to think about these principles and what else could we do to improve our current work practices. Please use the comments section to leave me your suggestions of other ways to integrate applied learning principles into our delivery, or even just what you thought of the ideas presented in this video. I look forward to hearing your suggestions and will answer any questions you may leave in the comments. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you have enjoyed this presentation.